Back then, during the Mahinda Rajapaksa era, Lasantha Vikramatunga homicide, Prageet Etnaligoda disappearance, heinous attack on the Depanama studio complex of the MTV MBC media network, unruly crowd gathered opposite the MTV MBC head office and hurled stones at the office buildings, continuous attacks on journalists including Keith Noya, Port de la Jayanta and Upali Tendakon, forcing many journalists in the country to flee. Today,
we are the ones who brought about this peace. We cannot forge ahead without a free society. You can air real and fake news. This freedom has come about because we created it.
Well,
good evening everyone, good evening Stephanie, good evening Shane. Rather encouraging and reaffirming statement by the Prime Minister. However, even though that was what he said, we at Newsfirst experienced something entirely different last night. Just moments after the vote on the no confidence motion against the Prime Minister ended, the head office of the MTV MBC media network was surrounded by an unruly crowd, which left Newsfirst staff trapped inside its compound for more than an hour. The Newsfirst head office was surrounded by a mob around 10 p.m. last night after the vote on the no confidence motion in Parliament concluded. After reporting on the incident on numerous occasions today, we received telephone calls from the general public confirming the identity of the individual who led the mob. According to the information we received, the individual has been identified as Keith Lee Rajapaksa, a Colombo municipal councillor of the United National Party. The group led by the municipal councillor obstructed the main entrance to the Newsfirst compound before lighting a barrage of fireworks in a show of threat. The mob was caught on camera behaving in an unruly manner while obstructing the road and constantly chanting threatening statements. The unruly behavior opposite the main entrance of the MTV MBC media network prevented the Newsfirst staff from leaving the premises. The mob was controlled with the intervention of the police. According to the information provided to us by our viewers who witnessed the footage we aired, the Deputy Chairman of the Colombo Urban Council, Unruly, could also be seen close to the Newsfirst head office during the incident. Our cameras captured the trail left by the mob after they were dispersed. Well, those were scenes from last night opposite the premises of the MTV MBC media network, moments after the motion of no confidence against Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe. The vote ended. Now, what happened last night reminded us of the harmful past that we've had, of incidents which transpired not too long ago, which should be noted. Yes, we are journalists, but we too are still humans. Is this the fate of a journalist whose sole responsibility is reporting the news? Keeping that in mind, let's begin the question of the person we focused in the footage you just witnessed. Who is Keith Lee Rajapaksa, the municipal councillor who led this unruly crowd opposite the head office of Newsfirst and engaged in this unruly behavior? Let's take a look.
Moments after staging the unruly behavior, UMP Colombo Municipal Councillor Kitson Rajapaksa was seen with Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe at the Gangga Haria. State media also aired footage of the municipal councillor where he was seen close to the Prime Minister at the Gangga Haria. Meanwhile, Kitson Rajapaksa had displayed cutouts in several parts of Colombo today congratulating the Prime Minister. On the 31st of December 2009, the Daily Mirror newspaper reported that Kitson Rajapaksa was arrested by the Terrorist Investigation Division on charges of organized crime. Are these the type of people that are being used to behave in an unruly manner before the media and intimidate journalists? Unruly, the deputy chairman of the Colombo Urban Council, who was also seen during the last night's incident, is a political ally of UMP Parliamentarian Smrekar. Lien, who travelled past the Newsfirst head office, was also seen with the Prime Minister at the Gangga Haria.
Now, as technology advances day in, day out, it has made things easier for crime to be and incidents to be monitored and evaluated. Now, we've identified some of the key players during last night's incident which broke out opposite our compounds. We've also identified the number plates of the vehicles which were at the incident. Well, we must inform those who oppose us that we are not alone and we will never be alone, because in light of last night's incident, several media organizations, both local and foreign, have joined in to condemn the incident which happened last night opposite our compounds.
The Public Media Alliance, the largest global association of public media organizations, has also condemned the mob attack on the Newsfirst head office. Issuing a statement this morning, CEO of the Public Media Alliance, Sally Ann Wilson, said it was with great concern that the Public Media Alliance learned this morning that an unruly crowd had surrounded the headquarters of Longtime and respected PMA member organization MTV MBC networks in Colombo, Sri Lanka. Due to the actions of the crowd, including reports of explosions, news staff were unable to leave the building and remained trapped inside until police dispersed the crowd. Sally Ann Wilson's statement adds, informed democracies require free and independent media, including journalists who are able to report freely and hold those in power accountable. Journalists working for such media organizations must be able to go about their work without harassment from commercial or political interests. She goes on to say Sri Lanka is recovering after a long civil war and years of political unrest. It is essential for the future peace of the country that the media is able to work unhindered. The CEO of the Public Media Alliance says the team at PMA will continue to monitor events and developments following the disappointing news we received early this morning. We hope our colleagues at MTV MBC will be able to continue their work without fear of further pressure.
This attack will not be viewed as one that was only aimed at the Sirasa network. We view this attack as the premonition of the challenge on free media in this country. The Sirasa network suffered far worse attacks in the past as well. We continue to make demands for justice on those crimes. at a time when the law is not being implemented on those demands. Again, there is a new round of attacks and intimidations on media institutions. If this is continuing, we see this as a growing trend against media freedom and democracy in the country. Those responsible for this incident need to be identified and necessary investigations must take place thereafter. The law needs to be implemented. The Free Media Movement requests that action be taken to prevent such incidents from taking place.
The Sri Lanka chapter of the South Asian Free Media Association has condemned the attack on Sirasa Newsfirst head office in Colombo as an alarming and shameful attack on the news media freedom in the country. It states an unruly mob exploded large amounts of firecrackers outside the gates of Newsfirst head office complex in Colombo and threw exploding fireworks at the closed gates and boundary walls of the news group premises. SAFMA Sri Lanka considers such attacks from whatever quarter to be an act of intimidation and terrorizing of people, in this case a news media organization. It added, given past experience of even more destructive attacks, including firing of weapons by armed men, the staff of Newsfirst were reportedly severely traumatized by the Wednesday night incident, which clearly directly targeted their news organization. It goes on to state it is a violation of the right of freedom of expression at a time when the nation has presumed that such freedoms had been restored after a decade of violent political repression. SAFMA demands that the law and order authorities immediately investigate this incident and prosecute the perpetrators. Only quick and firm remedial action will convince the public that democratic freedoms have genuinely been restored in this country.
Well, Transparency International Sri Lanka has also issued a statement in relation to last night's incident, saying it condemns any form of aggression directed at the media, irrespective of purported agendas and biases. Transparency International goes on to say, ensuring an environment where media personnel do not feel in any way threatened by physical harm is an essential feature of a democratic society, and those found to be acting to the contrary should be held accountable through the criminal justice system. Now, also adding to the wishes, to the statements we've been receiving, the Muslim Media Forum says it condemns the mob attack opposite the MTV MBC head office last night, and it says the government, which promotes media freedom, should take action against those accountable and ensure media freedom is assured. Now, like the media organizations that have expressed solidarity with Newsfirst, several political parties have also joined Newsfirst in condemning last night's incident.
In the wake of the incident, politicians, both government and opposition, visited the Newsfirst head office to inquire into the situation.
Firstly, I completely condemn any acts that have been done in any provocative sense or with any ulterior motive. I hope it has not been the case, but any such thing that has happened should be condemned roundly. We also should look into whether there is any premeditated motive behind it. I don't think there is any point. It may have been spontaneous, but such things, any case, should not be tolerated. In a fastly changing world where people have been given a lot of freedom, such things should not happen. And I think it should be taken from that spirit, looked into, and corrective action taken as soon as possible.
ස්වාධීනව වහාම පරීක්ෂණයක් කරන්න ඕනේ. කවුරු
An independent inquiry must take place to ascertain who did this and what action needs to be taken on this matter. We took over the government on the 8th of January and to ensure media freedom. The policy is that the media is free to raise their criticism.
තමන්ගේ විවේචන ඉදිරිපත් කරන්න.
මම පෞද්ගලිකව අනුමත කරන්නේ නැහැ.
Personally, I do not approve this. I believe we are better and a different party than this. It is the party which brought freedom to this country. We are a party which has the ability to take over the future of this country and take it to a strong position. There can be various opinions about this country and our party, but let's deal with this in peace and harmony and share the happiness and sadness. Let's allow the media to do their job and the politicians to do theirs.
Take a good look at where the situation has turned to now. As the joint opposition, we condemn this attack on Sirasa, which is one of the leading media institutions in this country, with disgust. Media freedom was one of the key slogans this government used during the campaign at the election. By last morning, Sri Lanka had been ranked 141st in the World Press Freedom Index. I'm sure it would have dropped by at least another 10 positions. Ranil Wickremesinghe has showed another form of the anti-media campaign which was carried out by the Rajapaksa regime. This is exactly how the Rajapaksa administration started as well. He even called the cartoonist and questioned him why he was drawn ugly. This tiny little threat grew to the extent of journalists being murdered, media organizations being bombed, and journalists' limbs broken. Now Ranil Wickremesinghe has started with the same nature of threats.
Well, as you heard from the JVP leader's comments, that over the past couple of years, over the past decade or so, incidents started small and stemmed to something big. Now I have with me Zulfiq Farzan. Zulfiq, now like Mr. Anukumar Disanaika said, it started something small and stemmed into something huge, which led to journalists being assassinated, journalists fleeing the country. So now this too, some might say, is a small incident. But what aggravated this incident to happen? How did it transpire?
Well, Shaheen, that's a very interesting question that you pose. Like you said, a small thing can lead up to a lot of things, but last night's incident came about following a series of incidents, following a series of exposés. Now, we believe it all started back in 2015. If you might remember, the infamous central bank treasury bond scam. Now, back in 2015, when our journalists took the stand and exposed this scam, no one understood what it was.
Absolutely.
No one even understood what a bond was. But gradually, as we continued our exposés on this bond scam, the people began to understand it. And then last year, at the Presidential Commission of Inquiry, we reported on the findings on a daily basis, and the people were made aware of the revelations and the gravity of this bond scam. Now, after the exposés were made, the people began to understand how big this matter is, how much public funds were being looted. And because of that, certain people are using goons and thugs to intimidate us, because we stand against corruption and we stand by the people.
See, Zulfiq, what they should understand is we will never fall into these matters. Like we've heard earlier in the bulletin, we've faced much bigger issues and we've managed to overcome and become stronger as we go. Now let's talk about the person we during the footage that we had. Keith Lee Rajapaksa, shall we talk about him a bit?
That's very interesting. Now you notice that individual, Keith Lee Rajapaksa. Now who is Keith Lee Rajapaksa? In 2009, Keith Lee Rajapaksa was arrested by the Terrorist Investigations Division. Now, why would the TID go and arrest a person? They don't just arrest a person. They do an extensive investigation, and thereafter, with concrete evidence, they arrest a person. Now, he was arrested for having suspected activity related to terrorism. Now, that is why Keith Lee Rajapaksa was arrested by the TID, and we saw him last night opposite our premises with that unruly crowd.
Now this begs the question, if these are the people who are being used now in the form of politics to intimidate media organizations and so on and so forth. Now Zulfiq, what about, can we speak more about our campaign, our objectives as a news organization? What do we strive to do?
Shaheen, as a news organization, we always stand by the truth. And we are never afraid, and we cannot be intimidated, because our journalists are willing to make the sacrifice to ensure the truth is revealed to the people and all corrupt activities are exposed to the people. Because at the end of the day, if it's corruption, it is the people's money that is being looted. It is your hard-earned money that is being swindled away by corrupt individuals. And we are not afraid to expose them, and we will always stand by the people.
Zulfiq, now this begs a question again. We asked the President and the Prime Minister, where is the good governance? Where is the media freedom that you promised? Dear Mr. Prime Minister, please do understand that we have nothing personal against you. It is solely a difference in policy. That is all we ask. And also, Zulfiq, I must also mention that various actors have come forward in the past to cover up these wrongdoers and protect these wrongdoers. And we've seen, once these wrongdoers appear before the people and try to represent the people, how they've responded. And Zulfiq, not too long ago, just over a month ago at the February 10th election, we saw how the people responded to these public representatives. And it clearly indicated their conduct over the past. Now, we have the footage, Zulfiq, of the incident which transpired last night from top to bottom. And we have directed these footage to law enforcement to take action. Having said that, we would like to extend our highest gratitude to the police for ensuring that the situation did not escalate any further. And we'd like to extend our gratitude to also all of those who contacted us and visited the area and ensured that everything was all right. Well, that is all we have from here from Zulfiq, and I